Well, welcome back to GIS Analysis at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. In this session, we're going to work on calculating the speed of movement. So we'll start by creating a line using the Create Fishnet tool. So the geometry type will be line, and will be one row, one column, and 10 wide and 10 high. And then we'll just have our origin at 0, 0, and the y-axis coordinate straight north. So 0, and then any value that's greater than 0 to go straight north. And I'm going to output the test lines. So now let's create some points associated with our test lines. So feature vertices to points. And let's take the midpoint of each line, and I'll output it to my TestGeo database, and I'll call it locations. So that gives us 4 points we can play with. So right now Arcmap is just seeing X and Y coordinates, so we could specify our units in any units we want. So let me specify my units in meters. And then let's run the add XY tool to get the location of each point in terms of its X coordinate and Y coordinate. So then if we look at the fields, we have a field, what's the X coordinate and the Y coordinate of each location. So we know the X coordinate and the Y coordinate of every location. So in order to compute speed, we would need to know the distance and the time between points. So let's give a time at each location. So we'll create a date field. And then let's give that some value. So if we use the field calculator, we could use just now, whatever the time is now. It doesn't really matter. So then what we're going to do is we'll add some time to each row, so our rows will be different in terms of their time. So let's say it takes us 24 hours to go from each location. So to add 24 hours, we could use the date add function. So using the field calculator, we use the date add function in hours. We're going to take the original feature ID times 24, so that would be 24 hours, 48 hours, etc., and put that in the time. Add that to our current time. So now we have 24 hours between each location. So in order for us to ultimately calculate speed of movement, we need to know what is the distance between each point. So going from point 1 to point 2, point 2 to point 3, point 3 to point 4. So one way to calculate length would be to create a line between these points. So we can use the points to line tool to connect the dots. So that's going to be one line between our locations. So we could symbolize that with an arrow at the end to see the direction of our line. And it is only one line. But what we really want to know is what's the distance between each pair of points. So what we'll do is we'll split this line by vertices. So this should give us a line between each pair of locations. So for example, this first line is a length of 10, and it's between location 1 and 2. The second line, a length of 7 between locations 2 and 3. So next we can transfer the length of our line to our original locations based on the object ID and the original feature ID. So for example, this line will transfer to point number 2, its length, and this line will transfer to point number 2, its length. This line will transfer to point number 1, its length. So we're going to use the join field tool, transfer the length of each line to our original locations using the object ID and the original feature ID. So now we have the length of each line. So from location 1 to location 2, it's a length of 10. And then from location 2 to location 3, it's a length of 7.1 something. So next what we need to know is what's the time between each pair of locations. So we can use the join field tool to do that. We'll select all points except for our first point. So I could do select by attributes not equal to 1. And then we'll use the copy rows tool to copy this table to get these dates in a new standalone table. So we'll copy our selected rows, and I'll make a new table, and it'll be called table next row. So for example, this first row has a date of 4th of March, which if we look at our original locations is the next row in that table. So then let's add a field and we'll call it next time, and we'll calculate that to be equal to this value of time. So it'll be a date field, and I just named it next time. And that's going to be equal to our, in this next row table, the current value in this field. And the reason why we do this is we're going to transfer this to our locations. So our locations already has a time field. We're going to transfer the next time to that table. So to do that, we need to change our feature ID. We'll do a field calculation, make it equal to its current value minus 1. So now we're ready. We can transfer next time to our original table. So I turned some of the fields in our locations invisible. So basically what we're going to use is this field will be a key field and this field will be a key field. So when we do join field, next time for the first row will be the 4th of March. Next time for the second row will be the 5th of March, etc. So we use the join field tool. We're going to join next time from our table next row to our location point table based on the original feature ID here is 1, 2, 3, 4, and the original feature ID here is 1, 2, 3, 4. So that should transfer next time to this table. And it does do the transfer. So now we have for each location what its current time is and what the time to the next location would be. So then we could calculate what's the difference in hours between these two fields. So we'll add a field and it'll be in hours. And let's make this a long integer in case we have lots of hours. And then we can use the field calculator with our date functions. We'll use the date difference function. So we want the current time minus our next time and return it in hours. So we have 24 hours between point 1 and its next location, 24 hours between point 2 and its next location, 24 hours between point 3 and its next location. So I made some of the fields invisible. So now we have the length of the line going from each pair of points and the time between each pair of points. So now we can calculate what is the speed between each pair of points. So we'll add a field for speed. So let's say we want meters per hour. And it'll be double precision. So that's going to be our length in meters divided by how many hours it takes to go between each pair of points. So then we have the speed in terms of meters per hour between each pair